Welcome to the Collective Talk podcast, where real conversations lead to real change. Each week, we spotlight powerful stories, authentic voices, and bold ideas that move our communities forward. From local leaders to everyday change makers, these are the people driving real impact. This is a space for truth, connection, and perspective. No noise, no filters. You're here for honest dialogue. So let's begin. It's time for a real conversation.
All right, my friends, welcome to the Collective Talk. This show is real talk for real change. I am the one and only Lamont Watts, and I am joined by the host, Mr. Ken Benson. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing wonderful on this busy day. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. We are
Good to
here.
hear.
The show is called the Collective Talk for real change. This show is all about us and bringing on real talk for real change. Hey, Ken, you know what? There's a Rod Hicks has joined us in the
That's it.
building.
That's him. That's him.
That's him. Let's bring
Yeah.
him on.
Oh, there
Rod,
he is.
are you there? There he is.
Hey, how you doing?
Can you hear
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent,
us,
excellent.
Mr. Hicks?
Yes, sir.
All righty.
Well, it is truly a pleasure here. This is welcome to the Collective Talk. It's real talk for real change. We were just about to get into the topics of today. And this is a show for an open platform for people to just to enjoy a conversation, because we feel everything starts from a conversation. So what we'll do is we'll kick off. We know us because we were there last week, and so we'd love to talk to you, Mr. Hicks, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Rod Hicks. I'm a business owner. I've been owner operator All-Stars Barber and Beauty Lounge, 4869 Broadway, Gary, Indiana. If you need any questions, just shoot. I'm willing to talk about anything you're willing to talk about.
Wonderful.
Excellent. All right, so I'm gonna fire off right off because you said one of our interesting words here in Chicago, Gary.
Okay.
Now, how long have you been in Gary, Indiana?
All my life.
Okay, so you've seen some progress, growth, change. Because now here's the thing, a lot of people from before my age, from what they've told me that, and now Ken, I know you're just maybe a smidge bit older than me, so maybe you might have heard something. Gary used to be a steel town back in the day, right?
Yeah.
And so because of that, a lot of the workers, and it was a lot of employment and gainful progress there, as far as a migration to Gary. And then
Yeah.
after the steel mills closed and things like that, it kind of decreased the population and put it in a situation of a financial struggle.
Well, I would say that the mills are still open, so a lot of folks from Gary still work at the mills. So, it's still a big place of commerce, and people are working at the mills who are homeowners, and so although some parts of Gary have kind of declined, just like the city of Chicago, there are parts of like Roseland and other parts of Chicago that have declined. So Gary has seen some of that decline, but I'm great to have Brother Hicks here because he's a person that, first of all, I need to say that he is my barber, and so he, owns the shop that I go to, and I invited him to join us tonight because I wanted him to talk about being a young Black entrepreneur. So, he owns the shop that he works in, he employs people, and as well, he does real estate. So, the one thing we talked about before is that the barbershop is where everything happens. The barbershop is where you talk about everything from politics to entertainment to having babies or whatever it may be. All that conversation happens in the barbershop, and the barbershop is a safe place to have these conversations. And so when I was thinking about inviting guests to our platform to talk about real talk for real change, I could not think of anybody else better than Rod to come on and talk about what it is to be a young African American business owner who has been in business for quite some time. What that is entailed, and the struggles that he may have seen, the successes that he may have seen, especially in an area like Gary, Indiana. So yes, Lamont, I think it's a place that has seen some issues, but at the same time, it's still flourishing because we have brothers like that who are born and raised in the community that still gives back to the community. And so
Exactly. And that's where I was trying to go with. I was going to say, you know, when people talk about the overall of it, you know, it's just like how Chicago, everybody says, oh, everybody's a gangster from Chicago. It's not true. That's why I want, the point I was trying to get at is that there are some positive things going on at Gary. And you know, just so excited to talk to one of the positive stories out there. And that's
absolutely.
why, you know, we definitely are so excited and so thankful that you come aboard to talk, because you can talk firsthand from being there for so long.
Definitely. We gotta the city is definitely on the momentum of the upside. Like we had to, you know, we had so many years of like an older leadership. We just got a new mayor in, you know, that's in his 40s. So he like, you know, gonna get a city like a young, like a more something in common with more, you know, people of the age group,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to give the city a different look. They got some stuff I seen on the news the other day. He got some stuff brewing right now with something with Notre Dame College with developing the downtown area and stuff like that. But it's plenty of opportunity here, man. You got the real estate market is good. You know, you got the mill, people working the mill. You got, you know, entrepreneurs. There's a bunch of entrepreneurs in the city opening businesses and stuff like that. Restaurants, lounges, establishments, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just Gary's been one of the. It's like if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's the saying Gary people have. If you can make it in Gary, you can make it anywhere. So it's just like, you know, it's doable. It's definitely doable. I did it. Some people, you know, that I'm a success story. Some people that I know that came before me are success stories, and it's doable. It don't matter where you at. You know, it's where you know where your heart at and your drive and what you put into it.
Yeah. So you as a entrepreneur, can you kind of as a young entrepreneur too, can you kind of give us a kind of a conversation of some of the things that some of your challenges that you ran into as a young African American entrepreneur in today's society?
I was just getting started. You know what I'm not. I didn't really have the toolage. I didn't have, you know, in the beginning, I didn't have really nobody to give me direction.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a lot of things I had to learn hands on. You know, I had to make a lot of mistakes that I learned from, what to do, what not to do. And to me, those are the best teaching tools right there.
Yeah.
Being hands on, getting in there and experiencing stuff on your own. So at an early age, it's like, you know, with age comes wisdom. So in the beginning, when you're younger, you know, sometimes you might have this headstrong attitude, and then, you know, life will humble you.
Right.
You know, life will humble you. But one of the challenges was just like, you know, like not really having you know, the knowledge, you know, the knowledge on how to do things, on how to start a business, on how to start an LLC, on how to structure a business bank account versus a personal bank account, the responsibilities, you know, that come with it. All of these are things that I've seen a lot of me hands-on personally, and a lot of guys, you know, that are like entrepreneurs that I know, you know, the struggles. We share some of the same struggles like that.
Mm-hmm. And that's where, you know, the importance, and I've had this conversation with a lot of people before, but I think personally that's the importance of what mentorship is. You know,
Definitely.
each one teach one. And the funny thing about it is when we talk about mentorship, it doesn't always have to be a young kid in the streets that you grab. And I mean, it may be somebody that, like, for example, there was a gentleman out there that got laid off his job. He's been on his job for 40 years, and so that's all he did. Now he's looking at something. So he's grabbing another. He wants to be a banker, so he grabs a young guy that was actually a banker, and now he's mentoring him as far as how to get into the banking field. So it's not age related. It's about the willingness to share information.
Definitely. But you know what comes with that? Sometimes you gotta humble yourself, and you know it's about think about the big picture. You know, this was like with the older guy going to the younger guy into the, you know, asking him about the banking business, and vice versa. The younger guy got to be able to, you know, swallow his pride and go to the older guy and ask for, you know, that's one thing I did learn with running the shop is I learned how to network, and I learned how to ask questions and put my pride to the side, you know. And just because knowledge is very powerful, it can get you far, and networking can get you far.
Definitely.
But the mentor thing is something that's very, very an intricate, important piece of the puzzle.
Definitely. That's why we're here now. We're all like ready to learn from Mr. Ken. You know, it's like, hey, give us some nuggets of wisdom here, sir.
Right.
I don't know how much knowledge I have, but I will say that the one thing that I do know about Rod is that he's always willing to give back and to share his wisdom and his stories with other people. And so this is something I want to dive into because I think Rod is a little bit younger than you and I, Brother Lamont. But you know, we talk about this in the shop often about these younger guys like really only seeing the right now and not looking at the future. And so, you know, they have this right now hustle. And then, you know, they look at somebody that, you know, Rod, that's why I want you to share with our listeners, like your story, like, you know, you weren't, you know, did you go to college and do you have a college degree? And if not, then how are you able to bypass that thing that sometimes our parents have told us that we have to do to become a shop owner? And so, you know, I'm glad that you said, yeah, there was some mistakes. Yeah, there was some struggles, but there's always some victories because you are where you are right now. So if there are young people listening, I want you to share with them, like, you can always hustle, but there's a way to hustle the right way. You know what I mean? So share some of that wisdom with the people who are listening to us tonight.
Oh, definitely. I was, you know, typical kid. I lost my mom when I was in junior high, and I lost my dad when I was a little younger than that. So it's like a 4 year span that I lost both of my parents. So it's like a lot of my story, my path was like basically hands on. So my sister, I was in between my sister and my cousin's house. So, you know, I had a spout where, you know, where I was in the streets. I started cutting hair when I was 12. So it's like I never lost the knack for it. And I went through my trials and tribulations where I got into the streets. I got in trouble. I caught a case. You know, I got put on probation. I didn't have to do no long stretch of time. And then it was just like the barbering thing saved my life. It turned me all the way around 360. And I stuck with it. And it took me places. Like I had a vision. And I stuck with it, and I believed in myself. But within that vision, it was a time trying to get to that, trying to manifest that vision into reality. But I never gave up because I ended up working in a barbershop with some other guys, and I seen that it just opened my eyes up to a whole nother way of thinking. Like, because when you working in a barbershop, it's like networking is one of the main keys. Like, because you have so many walks of life that come into the barbershop, you know, doctors, lawyers, criminals, you know what I'm saying? Firemen, police officers. So it's like you tap into all of that, and the conversations that you have with meeting these people, it just gives you a greater outlook on life to be like, you know what, dang, like it is something else out there other than just the streets. You know, you do have options. We do have options, and you know, it is outlets out there to to help people, to help the youth, you know. And it's just today, in today's age, it's a lot different with these young guys because it's a microwave. It's like a microwave thing. That if they not getting no instant gratification out of it, they not doing it.
Right.
So you don't give up though. You keep trying, and you reach the ones that do listen, and you get satisfaction out of that, and keep it moving.
Yeah. You know what? One of the things that I always enjoy, and it's weird, not weird, but I guess it's an ongoing thing for people in our race. The barbershop has always been like Switzerland. Like you said, doctors, lawyers, drug dealers, Pookie and them, everybody, it was like there was no, everybody was equal when they walked in there.
Right.
And everybody's, and it was always so cool because everybody's comment was, and probably still is to this day. I'm kind of lacking on the hair thing, so I ain't been there in a minute. But everybody, it can be heard. Everybody's a voice there at the barbershop.
Definitely.
So has that been? I mean, as far as you know, in your theory, what do you think of that? As far as with our African American society, is it that, or do you think it's like pretty much like across the globe, like Asian, Caucasian, Hispanic, all them? The barbershop is the same rules apply, I guess.
I would assume that the same rules apply because the barbershop is like a neutral safe zone in most cases, like where you can go in and not even know a person and y'all could talk sports, you could talk politics, you could talk, like gossip, the daily gossip and stuff like that, and tap in and you can get to know a person. Like, don't I know you see a person? I like, don't I know you? I know you. Oh, the barbershop. Yeah. And it's a connection. It's a connection in many different directions of life. You come in, people come in, hey, my job hiring, can I leave this flyer here? And you pass it out and stuff like that. Is definitely, I could see that being the same way, but I think it's more stronger in the Black community.
I agree. I would probably go with and agree with that. Ken, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's something that we talk about all the time. And I think, when I think about young Black men actually, going into business for themselves, right? I think the question I would have, the most important question I would have, and I think we talk about this a lot, is the hurdles. Like people who you see who should be really celebrating what you're doing, but they've used that, they, as we say, they hate on you. There's like, oh man, this guy looking for your failure. So in all of the years that you've been doing this, how did you get around dealing with the haters and the people who, maybe barbers who have come into the shop and decided that they wanted to leave, and then when they left, then all of a sudden you was the worst person in the world and they would walk out the shop. But how did you deal with that? How did you keep that from, getting you down and saying, look, I'm just gonna give up, I'm gonna keep going on?
I had that in the beginning and when I opened my shop, because people was like, oh, he a drug dealer, he ain't really cutting no hair. And I was just like, it was just expected because I hate to say it, in our community, you gonna get that. Like, that's just something you gonna get with success. So you kind of get accustomed to it.
Right.
You get thick skin on it. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have some thick skin on it. So once you learn how to have a thick skin on it, you know how to deal with it. Like, you see the bigger picture. Like, Like, man, my business, the dreams and aspirations I got for my business are way bigger than what any hater can say. People gonna say, all type of stuff about you, not even know you from from a can of paint. But it's like the people that do know you, you latch on to that love that you have and that respect that you have from people, and that'll outweigh anything a hater got to say. That's how I look at it.
I think that's a great way to look at it, and I wanted you to say that because I think that people sometimes get influenced by what other folks say. So if you start out doing something and you're gung ho to do it and you feel real encouraged, and then somewhere along the line somebody comes and says something, or something that's true or maybe not true, but they're trying to to bring you down. And so, Brother Lamont brought this up in the beginning. How did you build up your clientele in a city like Gary? Now we know that Gary has his ups and his downs, but just like some of the parts of Chicago, like Roseland or Old Block or Inglewood or Back of the Yards, you hear all of these various stories about these communities and how how did you build up your clientele in a city like Gary?
I always like had a good work ethic. So I just implemented that into, I knew that if I worked hard and I put the time into my craft, and I would reap the rewards from my hard work and the time and the effort. Like I studied it. I didn't turn down a haircut. It wasn't a haircut that I didn't pass up. No, how much money you got? $10, $12. All right, come on. I didn't pass up nothing. I ain't turned down nothing but my collar.
All right.
And I was reliable. I made sure that I was reliable and trustworthy. And I was prompt with my time and get you in, get you out. And I was professional. Like I ran my book like a Fortune 500 company to this day. Even though I own the shop, I still get up at 6 a.m. You know what I'm saying, and beat my clients here 99% of the time. 99. So it's like I make sure I beat them here. I make sure I'm prompt. I make sure I'm whatever issues that I have on the other side of that door. When I crack that door and I step inside the shop, I'm not having you can't tell that I got an issue going on and nothing like that. I don't want anything to affect my daily performance.
Mm-hmm.
And I take that, anything like any type of negativity or anything, I take it as a grain of salt and I keep it moving. You're gonna have it. You're gonna get that. People talk about LeBron, people talk about, Mike Jordan, they always gonna have something to say. I just put my horse blinders on, and my main objective was to build my clientele. And because it's only about 60, this is all I always say. It's only about 60-some thousand people in Gary, but there's still some people out there that don't know what a good haircut feel like.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's right. And I think just to kind of go down that road with you, because again, we're talking about people who may have that hustle mentality. But what you were saying is that your hustle mentality means that I'm gonna get up earlier than anybody else. I may stay later than anybody else. We hear young people now, unfortunately, and again, this is real talk. And so this is a place for real talk. Young people make, no $7.50 or $10.50 or whatever minimum wage is. I'm not flipping no burgers. I'd rather go stand outside and, sell these packs and risk going to jail and giving up my life instead of trying to hustle a way where you can build yourself. And so listening to you say that means that, it, like you said, you didn't turn down a haircut. You took $10 to $12 and you got to a place where you were able to be where you are right now. The one thing I wanted to ask you about, and we talked about this last week when I was there in the shop, that, when we come into All-Stars, and the one thing about an older person, when you look for a barber, and I've talked to a lot of other older guys, when you go to the shop, if it's a new shop, you're always looking to see who that person is who seems to be serious. That person is that seems to be really dedicated. And then you realize like, hey, that might be the person that I want to cut my hair, because I realize that when I come to the barbershop, I don't have to wait 30 hours, to get in and get a haircut. You ain't got to go outside and take a weed break before you come back in and cut my hair. So, having that atmosphere where people feel safe to have those conversations and not feel judged or not feel that they're going to be attacked. Come into a place, a barbershop in Gary, where you don't have to worry about somebody coming up and shooting it up. How did you build that atmosphere? And why is that so important to you as a business owner, that is the atmosphere of people who come into your establishment?
Because, this was my dream, right? So this is a representation of me. So it's easy for somebody else to come in and mess up what you built and go. They could be going on about their way, right? So it's like you try to you set the standard from the jump. You know, you lay the rules down, and you be respectful. You know, you respect you. I respect you as a man. You respect me as a man. This is what I asked for. If you working here, and you know, as a man, this is how it's supposed to be ran. How my vision of my business to be ran. You can do this, but you can't do that. So you know, be aware and be respectful of your neighbors and their clients, and so on. To each his own. You know, to everybody do the same thing amongst their, you know, the person that's working next to you. And it took some years, you know, when you know you're going to go through some guys, and, you know, some people that come in and don't know how to conduct themselves like that. And you know, the test of time will tell, like, over time, if it's, you know, if it's meant for them to be there, they'll still be with you. And if not, you know, they move on and you move on in your direction. They move on in their direction. And you know, as a businessman, you know, one of the key rules is to not take it personal. You learn from it and you keep it moving.
Right. So let me ask you this. You know, when you come across a young guy that it's like, you know, I've been cutting, I kind of took to it. I may cut in my basement and, you know, but I'm really looking to get into a shop. I want to get to where you are. What would you suggest that their path be, the steps that they take to get to a place where one day they're making the money that they want to make and that they are, you know, maybe a business owner? Because I know some owners of barbershops who make six figures. And some folks wouldn't believe that, wow, you make six figures owning a barbershop, but it's possible. So if I was a young person coming to you and say, hey, I think I got the knack to cut hair. I really think, you know, I don't want to work for anybody. I want to be my own independent contractor. What would you say to them? Like, what are the steps that you would think that they would take to get to that place of ownership?
Don't No shortcuts. Even though the long way might seem like the slow way, but it's the best way. Go to barber school, get your barber license, and then go into a shop where it's other guys working, and work with them, because one of the best tools is to be around other good barbers and to pick up, you know, what they're doing. Uh, It just sometimes you have to, you know, you got to crawl before you walk. A lot of guys are so headstrong on just, I'm my own boss and being. It's nothing wrong with going to work with some guys in the shop and learning, you know, learning how to carry yourself, learning how to do certain techniques that you didn't learn in barber school, and taking those steps, those gradual steps, one foot in front of the other, and then you branch out, and because at some point you might be on that nurturing side of another barber that came in just like you came in.
Each one teach one. Yeah.
Yeah, each one teach one. Definitely, each one teach one.
Okay, so listen, we got three guys here now. We got an owner of a barbershop. So let's jump into a little barbershop talk. You know what I'm saying? So
All right.
let's start off with of course one of the trending topics right now, the debate.
Oh man, we listen. we talked about that earlier. It went crazy in here earlier about that the debate. It was, you know, two older guys and it was some guys in their 50s going against some guys in their early 40s, and it gets tense. So that is a religion, politics and religion are two topics that you know, definitely had a barbershop in the uproar.
Mm-hmm. So with the talking about the debate, here we go. What was your take, gentlemen? What was each one of you guys' take on the debate that took place?
Rod, I'm gonna let you go first since you are our guest. I'm gonna let you go first and give us what I'll probably hear anyway when I come get a haircut. So just give me a preview of it.
Okay, look, this is okay with me. You know, it's kind of like a ploy to me. It seemed like a ploy on the Kamala Harris thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you look at all of they want the black vote. So you have all of these stars, the Meg, the Stallion, the Lil Jon. It's like a concert.
Mhm.
You know, it's like a concert to get the vote. It's just, this is a topic that could go on and on, back and forth, back and forth. You know, you look at the policies, you look at the track records. You know, it's like, hey, listen, you know, you've been in office, you've been the vice president for 3.5 years. You know, so it's like, you can't say that if you give me a chance, I do this. Like, you actually was on the job.
Right.
You was on the job doing the job, and it's like, I haven't seen too much being done.
Right.
And then across the hall, you have the Donald Trump supporters and Donald Trump and what he got going on, and all of this is just, on his end, is so much. You know, people bring up all the felonies and all of that, and I was like, listen, man, it's a real thing. It's white privilege.
Mhm.
You know, like, yeah, that man got 30-some felonies, and he's a presidential candidate.
Right.
So he got the right complexion to get him there. And what comes with him, it's no different though. Like, it's really no different. You know, he's been the president. We've had presidents not in our favor, like people of color. And it's like, one thing that I do know, it don't matter who's the president, we gonna make a way to survive. We gonna make a way to get through it. We gonna make a way to bring home, put food on the table for our families. So that's the outlook I have on it. It just, at some point, it just be a travesty. Like with the debate the other night, it was, you know, people come in, oh, she won. It's like, hey, listen, do you know anything about electoral votes? And you know what I'm saying? Do you
Right.
know how the voting system is actually set up? Like, you know, like, we go back and forth all day, every day about that with people in and out of the barbershop. Like, do you really look at, you know, you have some people that just be supportive because of the skin color
Mhm.
versus the answers, the policies that they like. She didn't answer anything about it, you know, her policies or anything like that. And it's like with Donald Trump, you know what to expect. He's been the president before, so like, you should already know what to expect out of him.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of this, people was laughing about some of the stuff that he was saying about the eating the cats, but that was actually true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. That was actually something with the immigrants in certain cities that happened. That's an actual, you know, occurrence that happened.
Yeah.
So
Now I
yeah.
got to jump in because no, that was not that was not true. And the people who actually put it out there kind of debunked this, like, oh, okay, that was like some sort of fairy tale. But I think the one thing, you know, all of that aside, the one thing that I would say, I really never talk about who I vote for, because I think I'm the kind of person that I'm gonna look at what you can do for our community. So if you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat, don't matter. I don't care about those parties. I don't vote straight up and down the line. I'm looking at people, what they do. But I will say this, that I think the majority of folks will say, look, either I'm on this side or that side. But I think you got a lot of people who just say, I don't care for either one of them. I don't want to vote for either one of them. But that premise will say, then you're not going to vote, because if you don't want to vote for either one, if you don't care for either one of them, then you won't exercise your right to vote. And I know a lot of people say, well, you know, presidents are appointed and not elected, and I've heard people say that a lot. But I think more so we're looking at, I think the overall large presidential campaign should really trickle down to our local communities. That's where I'm at, about your aldermen or council people and people like that, where, you know, they can affect whether or not the streets get paved, or they pick up your garbage, or, you know, your water bill is reasonable. So yeah, we want to look at the big election, but always realize that what they do there may not always get down to where I am. But I'm encouraged to say I'm going to vote for my local folks, because I know that they will directly impact the way that I live my life. So we talk about judges and how young black men are being incarcerated. Then vote when you see that there's a judge coming up that may be over the area that you live in. Or if there's a councilman, don't continue to vote for him or her because they've been in there for 1,000 years, and you just go in there and it's a name that's familiar to you, and so you just, well, I'm gonna vote for this person because I haven't done any homework to figure out if there's anybody else. So, you know, I have my thoughts about Kamala Harris, and I definitely have my thoughts about Donald Trump. I will say this about her, is that I'm with you, Rod, that she was there alongside Biden. But what she would say is that, what they've said is that the vice presidency role is really that, just kind of a role. Like, you really don't have much power, and they don't really give you the opportunity to make policy. Everything, like, the president signs on to those policies. And whether we believe that or not, I mean, that is what she's saying. But then I look at, like you said, we do have a track record. And I ask this question to anybody. If you have a convicted felon, a person that can't speak 3 seconds without telling a lie, and I ain't even talking about cats and dogs, I'm talking about lie, just straight lie. I'm still the president of the United States. Well, if you won the election, why are you running again? Your terms would be up. Telling people that if you vote for me, you ain't never got to vote again. Talking about, just stuff that's just so off the rails. And if you allow a person like him to talk, give him, you say if you let a person talk long enough, that you'll get to know about them. Let this man talk, and by the time it's over with, he talking about windmills and all kind of crazy stuff that ain't got nothing to do with nothing. I look at him the same way that people looked at Biden, that this is a person who is losing their facilities. He's old. Now he is the old person in the race. And now, I don't think even when he ran before, he was went to Wharton Business School. But when you listen to him, you talked about her and her policies. What policy do he have? What one policy have he talked about?
Hey, let me ask you this.
Let me say this. It's going to be huge. We're going to build a wall. Okay.
Right. And none of that happens. None of it never happens. But he's going to do it. It's going to be the biggest. It's going to be the best. That's his words. It's going to be the biggest.
Listen. He had a point though, right?
What's the point?
So check it. So Kamala Harris is the czar of the border, right? She was appointed the czar of the border. So on her watch, it's been how many illegal aliens, immigrants that's been let into the United States? 20, right? 20 million or something like that, right?
About the same amount that came through when Trump was president.
Nah. Come on, Pastor Ken. Listen, Pastor Ken, stop it.
He built half a wall, and he said Mexico was going to pay for it. Mexico ain't built that wall yet.
Listen to the point I'm trying to make. You talking to, listen, Kamala Harris was actually, that was her job. Okay. And on her watch, it's been over 20 million illegal immigrants that's done come into the country, right? Now, Donald Trump did, I'm not always on board with what he said, but some stuff he pointed out, listen, no, going to any other country has not been, you can get in any other, you can go to any other country, and it's a task on getting into that country. They got rid of a lot of their criminals and send them over here. Then they're getting like, and I remember seeing on the news at one point, they was getting like $5,000-$6,000 a month in aid, right?
Mm-hmm.
They sending these people into the black neighborhoods, supplying them with $5,000 to $10,000 a month in aid. Now this is on Kamala Harris' watch, right? So it's like, damn, I've been living in Inglewood all my life, and it's been a struggle trying to get some help. It's been a struggle trying to get my mama's house fixed up or the street paved. But here they come along because you trying to get them to vote for you. What they're saying is the actual tactic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like at some point something has to be done, and that's why I'm like, okay, I understand. Like I'm on board with Trump with that. Like, all right, yeah, this board is a little too loose. It's a little too loose. You got a little too many people. I don't care about the rhetoric. Like, you got to look past how he's,
Right. I get you, but let me ask you this question: if when he was the president, so what you're saying, when he was the president, he closed the border totally, nobody was
Definitely.
coming over, and then
Not-
when Biden came to be the president, and these last 3 years, the border just opened up. I think we got to do
Yes.
some research, because I would
Yes.
assure you,
Yes.
that even people who are a part of Trump's administration said that he did absolutely nothing across the
Hey,
border. But let me
Okay, let me throw this back. Hold up, let me throw this back in. I got a fact for you. It says here, foreign-born population grew by 5.1 million in the last 2 years.
Okay, and that's fair. But let me ask you this question: I think we got to put everything in
thanks for the
perspective.
fact check.
Oh no, fact check is fine, but we got to put everything in perspective. We here in Illinois and Indiana and where I live, and we're talking about the border. How many people from that border do we see in our community? How many people and the question is, like, we make the border an issue, but we have other issues like Trump saying that they're going to do away with the IRS. Trump saying that, and I don't know if you've read that 2025 plan, but it's important that people open that up so that we won't be surprised. He's going to do away with the Department of Education. He wants to take away funding for free lunch and all of these things. So this has been the Republicans' platform
Pass the kid.
forever.
Pass the kid. All of that is what we call clickbait, right?
Let me finish this point.
If you knew how to,
I'm going to tell you how I know. So I've been in social services for 30 years, working on grants, and under various administrations, you see how grants grow, and you see what's cut back in grants. So when Trump, during the COVID years, when Trump took over,
every administration.
No, but I'm telling you that when Republicans are there, they do more for the rich than they do for the communities in which I work in. So I worked in all over the city of Chicago. I've worked all over the suburbs. I've worked with these grants. I've seen how they've trickled down to the states where money is taken apart. But I'm going to tell you something else. I think the most important thing we have to understand is you can vote. Go ahead and vote for him. I'm telling the world, vote for him. I'm not even saying vote for Kamala. You didn't hear me say that. I said that you got to think about what's for your best interest. And I will say this without seeming to be someone that is racist, that I think sometimes that people that look like you understand you better than somebody that don't look like you. I'm gonna give you a prime example. Having people who go to the rallies and say, Trump understands us. He just like us. When you know that you couldn't even go into Mar-a-Lago and sweep the floors. Half of these people there at these rallies, he wouldn't let them come nowhere near them. But I'm gonna tell you why he's such a popular person, because he can say things out loud that nobody's ever been able to say. And so they like, oh, he can say the N-word. Oh, he can say MF. Oh, he could talk about, I don't like these Muslims and these Chinese. And this is how people feel. And so they're like, hey, now he made it okay to say. So now I can say it.
Hey, Ken. Kendrick Lamar says they not like us.
Right.
That's very true. That's true.
Hey, listen, another fact for you. I got another fact
today. Good.
Did you know that in 2008 there was a bill passed called the 2008 Farm Bill? So the government had to enact legislation prohibiting the consummation of dogs and cats. It's called the 2018 Farm Bill. So, and also that includes the Dog and Cat Meat Trade Prohibition Act, which bans the import, export, and slaughter of cats and dogs for human consumption. So another situation here that, why would they make a law that they had to enact a law in 2018 to stop?
Because in other countries, cats and dogs are a delicacy.
Yeah.
Well, not in my house. Not in my
They
house.
not like us.
Yeah. That in other countries, you have other countries where they eat roaches, beetles, spiders.
Yeah.
So
I would never be on Fear Factor. I'm gonna tell you right now.
You couldn't pay me to be on Fear Factor. I don't know, Pastor Ken. That's why if you look at every president, man, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be some positives and some negatives in there. You just can't. That's just not how life goes. You can't satisfy both sides. You know, with certain things, somebody gonna in certain situations and topics, some gonna get the short end of the stick versus the other. You know, it's just that's just how life is. And you know, you can't. And to this
I
day,
think
as
you have
old as we are,
to choose wisely.
Well, you know what? Let me ask you too. One thing that you said, which made an important point, and this is something that people don't think of. Regardless of whichever side you vote on, a no vote is a vote for the popular candidate. Because if you think about it, if it comes down to we've seen cases before throughout history where it's come down to as little as 10,000 votes as a winner or something like that. So if you think about it's like playing basketball when you know the game comes down to the wire, it comes down to free throws. How many free throws was missed? So
right.
so the important thing is to get out and vote no matter whose side you're picking for, but a no vote counts as a vote anyway for that popular person.
So
Definitely.
let me ask you this, because Rod, you brought this point up, and I think it's important. Celebrity endorsements. So you have like Taylor Swift, who everybody is the buzz now. Oh, she's back in Kamala Harris. But then you have people like kind of get involved in this political rhetoric, but then you look and he's never even voted. So it's like, how about this influence that these celebrities have on vote? What's your thoughts about that?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't, because if you have the knowledge on knowing what states the electoral votes, what the electoral votes win, what states, those people not going to what's the average Taylor Swift fan? 19, 18?
They said
Those people,
they
those
said
people they don't even vote.
people registered to vote. They said
How many?
300 and some thousand people registered.
How many?
357,000 people registered to vote. Once she said that she was backing Kamala Harris. That's the figure that I heard.
How many?
But
What is the United States population? When you averages that out, that's probably not really a big number. It's 50
but
states.
When you think that it's coming down, like Brother Lamont said, to 10,000 votes or something, that makes that
yeah. And you know
our
what?
time is that Brother Lamont, the one thing you got to understand about my barber is that he live in Indiana. So the Republicans gonna always win Indiana. There'll never be a Democrat that wins Indiana. So you see,
hey, that's a fact.
Democrat if he wants 5,000 times, but there will never be a Democrat that will win.
But you know what? As far as when we look at it as the whole, it says here that there's important. I mean, when we look at the swing states, those are the ones that's really important. So you got like Nevada, right. You've got Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, North Carolina.
We know who went in Arizona
and Georgia.
So, we know who went in Arizona, right?
Right. So those swing states are what's important because of those electoral votes, you know? Right? So with those being swing states,
that's true. I think that's true. I think at the end of the day, it's just important to exercise that right. Like as African American people, we have had people in our families who have died to
definitely
make sure that it's important, regardless who you want to exercise that vote, because then you are keeping the legacy on. I hear so many young people saying, well, my vote don't count, my vote don't count. And you know what? I'm not going to argue the point whether it does or not. But what I will say is that somebody that looked like you died so that you could cast that vote. So maybe it's important to get up and go and exercise that point, that vote.
Another thing though, that's important is the awareing people of how the system works. You know, from the municipalities, from your congressman, from your councilman to the mayor. You know, our people need to be more better informed on how it works. You know, because you will go in there when you go in there to vote, and I learned this by experience, and I didn't realize it until I got older. Like going in, you just know, okay, the presidential candidates. Then when you look at that ballot and then you see what judges are up. When I was younger, I didn't know who the hell these judges was. I'm in there just clicking on anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just clicking on anything to get out of there. So it's like once you get a little older, and you read when you get older, you read the paper and you looking at the news and you getting the knowledge on stuff that's more important, right? That's one thing I can say we need to get better at is the knowledge of how the process works, on how you can change stuff in your town with voting in and voting out certain people.
Right. And I'll even take it a step further too. And the younger generation has gotten better than this. Our generation and younger has gotten better on this because like Ken said, our forefathers gave us the right to vote. But what one of the things that we noticed in our people before us, if they were Democrats, it was like, okay, you go vote Democrat. Why? Because I'm a Democrat. Our family's Democrat.
Right.
So
Yeah.
And like Rod is doing a lot. He's bringing up a lot of good points where some of the points are Democratic, but some are Republican. So to go in there to say, okay, well, my family is Republican, so I got to vote Republican, but I believe, so that's where doing your research comes into play, and especially with today's technology and everything. There's no excuse. I mean, back in the day, it was like, it was everything. Like in our age, we had encyclopedias. That was it. Now Google can tell you everything, and even
everything,
now, AI even tells you even more than that. So there's no reason not to be informed,
definitely,
of the information. So I think as the campaigns grow, it's not just get out and vote, but it's also do your research on the candidates.
Definitely.
So I think that's one of the important things, and important things that we should stress to our younger generations that are, instead of like us, instead of just you're a Democrat, your daddy was a Democrat, your granddaddy was a Democrat.
Right.
No Democrat.
Right. You might not have the same beliefs as your parents when you get older. And that's the case with a lot of the younger generation, because they question a lot of the old ways.
Not only that, I mean, let's be honest. Now there's a lot of our generations that are in different tax brackets than our forefathers were.
Definitely.
And that's one of the major things is Democratic versus Republican. It depends on which tax bracket you're in. Like they said, like Ken said, the Republicans are more for a tax break for the more wealthier, where the Democrats are saying, hey, tax breaks needs to be basically for the lesser fortunate people too. That's why it's tax breaks. But so it all depends on which social economic you are too.
Right. That's a good point. That is a good point.
Yeah.
So, but listen, gentlemen, we got to wrap things up here. Let's give our guest, Mr. Rod Hicks, the first floor open for final thoughts. We want to
we gotta have I want to say this before we go to final thoughts. We got to have Brother Rod back on, because we still ain't touch on the big arguments, LeBron James and some of the other folks that we argue about in the barbershop. So sports. So we got to have him back on for part 2. Yeah, we got to have him. Now that right there can become a very heated conversation. So we got to have him back on. We can have that conversation.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Excellent.
Definitely.
Mr. Hicks, your final thoughts.
My final thoughts are, no matter what happens, no matter the turnout in the election, no matter the turnout in your home elections with the judges and mayors and stuff like that, at the end of the day, we've had umpteen presidents. So you just got to be able to adjust your lifestyle, your beliefs, and do what's best for your family. At the end of the day, that's what it's about.
Mhm. Ken, final thoughts.
I just want to say I thank Brother Rod for coming on and joining us. It's important, and I think the one thing, the real reason I wanted him to come is because he has the ears of a lot of people that come into that shop. You know, like he said, the various folks that come, so he can gather that information, but he can also continue that conversation. Let's have the conversation without getting angry. Let's have the conversation about young people and guns. Let's have the conversation. And the great thing about, you know, his establishment is that it's a safe place to be. So I really appreciate him coming and talking about how you can hustle the right way. And so we are definitely going to have him come back on so we can continue that barbershop talk segment of our show.
Definitely. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, we thank you guys, and we will talk to you next week here at the Collective Talk, Real Talk for Real Change. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
And that's a wrap on this episode of The Collective Talk. If you felt that energy, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a moment of real talk, bold truths, and influential voices. We're here every Wednesday at 6 p.m., bringing you the stories that move the culture and inspire change. This is The Collective Talk, where the mic is on and the truth is loud.